right, here we go now, baby. Week 7 NFL action gets underway Thursday night in Cincinnati with the Steelers in town. Joe and Jingles coming at you with 5 total best bets for the game. Before we get into those, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button right down there. Now then, let us get right into the action. I'm going to get us started with over 43.5 on the full game total. So we've seen a serious pattern of very high scoring games in Cincinnati going back to last season. So the Bengals' last 9 home games have seen an average combined score of 61.5 points. 8 of the 9 games reaching at least 54 combined points. This includes a game versus the Steelers last season, where the teams combined for a modest 82 points. Now, I completely understand different quarterbacks playing for each of the teams here. That's one of the reasons why the total is down to 43.5. But the Bengals defense this time around, compared to last year, they might be worse than last year's defense, which was one of the worst in the NFL. So coming into action this week, they're ranked 29th in yards per play allowed, 29th in opponent third down conversion percentage, 30th in red zone defense, and they are one of 3 teams allowing an average of more than 30 points per game. Now, yes, we can make fun of old man Flacco, old man Aaron Rodgers. You think their ages are going to be brought up during the broadcast on Amazon Prime? They absolutely will. But Flacco does bring some stability to this offense. They did find some footing in the second half versus a pretty good Packers defense in Green Bay last week. 18 points scored in the second half. Early chemistry with Jamar Chase is definitely promising. And keep in mind, pretty similar situation here for Flacco. I guess you would say a backup level quarterback with some pretty strong weapons. Pretty similar situations to Carson Wentz, who has some pretty good weapons. He threw for 350 yards against his Steelers defense a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, absolutely love the over 43.5. Now, Jingles, a lot of the time we are aligned, but we do have some unalignment here for maybe the first time this season. You're going to take the first half under.
Yeah, the full game scares me because what Cincinnati can do in the second half. So I'm on the first half under 21.5 minus 105. I'm on the good side of 21. The Steelers are the 4th slowest team in football. They can eat the clock with the lead. I think they're one of the fewest 3 wide receiver set personnel groups. They love to run 2 wide receiver sets. They love to run 6 offensive linemen. So they're not moving the ball down. But I want the first half here because Cincy will clearly go much faster in the second half, especially with projected game script. 0 points last week in the first half versus Green Bay. And then they just threw the ball to Chase, basically. 18 points in that second half. They're going to use that scripted run that has done nothing for them all year. 3.1 yards per carry. Dead last, tied in all of football. They'll abandon that in the second half. Short week, old quarterbacks. Rodgers is the least aggressive passer downfield at 5.4 average intended air yards per throw. And the Bengals, first half offense has been terrible, 5.5 per game. That's last in football, while the Steelers defense is pretty good inside the 20, tied for 4th in red zone defense. Short week, old quarterbacks. Going to be some ugly running game script for Cincinnati, who can't run the ball. Things could open up in the second half, though.
Okay, next up for me, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. I think he has a pretty good opportunity. The stat sheet, I'm going to take him to go over his passing yard total of 216.5 here. So the Bengals have allowed the second most passing yards this season, allowing an average of 258.5 per game. Of the 6 opponents that they face, only Carson Wentz failed to top this number of 216.5 passing yards against them. And that had a lot to do with the Vikings being up 34-3 at halftime. Of these 6 quarterbacks they face, 5 of them have thrown for at least 250 yards. The Bengals are 31st in yards allowed per completion. Rodgers completing almost 70% of his passes. And for what it's worth, maybe it's nothing here, but the last time the Steelers came into Cincinnati, OC Arthur Smith put together a pretty good game plan that saw Russell Wilson throw for 414 yards against them. And like I said, the Bengals defense might be worse this season. So yeah, let's take Rodgers to have a nice game here. I like Aaron Rodgers again. He just needs to get off the Jets here, over 216.5. Okay, Jingles, 2 props for you. Why don't you go back to back with them?
Yeah, Darnell Washington, 3+ receptions, plus 140. I love small reception props at big plus money. This Pittsburgh offense, as I alluded, is not a 3 wide receiver set. This is an Arthur Smith special offense. Last week, similar spot, 6-point favorite, ran 11 personnel, just 21% of the time. Washington is getting snaps because of this. Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, they're there too, but they're also getting snaps because of the heavy tight end usage sets. 5 targets, 3 catches, 62 yards last week for Washington, and 3 catches the week before. He saw his snaps double from weeks 3 to week 4. He hit the bye, they stayed high, and he played the most snaps out of all tight ends last week at 79%. The team that gives up the most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends, guess who it is? It's the Bengals. 6.2 catches per game, 66 yards, 0.8 TDs. This is another good spot where they're going to be running heavy sets. Washington won't come off the field, and he just needs 3 receptions from a quarterback who doesn't like to throw the ball deep. And finally, let's take a shot here. Last TD, Caleb Johnson for last TD, plus 3,300. 0.15 units here. Now, this is a spot where obviously we want Pittsburgh to be leading late. Jaylen Warren got 0 snaps last week in the fourth quarter. How did I know? Because I had his over 68.5 total yards and he finished with 63. It was a tough beat, but we saw late in that game that Arthur Smith and this offense are happy to put Caleb Johnson out there. He played the last series of the game with under 5 minutes. He got the carries, and this is another spot where he could. Obviously, it's tough grinding when everybody knows you're running the clock out, but small unit play on a guy who could get snaps down the end at 33-1. Let's go there. Little lotto for Thursday Night Football, Joe.
Okay, there you have it. All of our best bets for Week 7 Thursday Night Football. Enjoy the game. Best of luck with your bets, and we'll see you right back here on the Covers YouTube channel for all the Sunday NFL action. Yeah.